Hello, and you're watching Breakdown, ThePapare.com's very own segment where we bring you everything that is rugby in Sri Lanka. And after a 2-week break, we are back to school's rugby, Shanaka. Milo Knockout President's Trophy semi-finals happened over the weekend, and we had 3 semi-finals with Royal pulling out. Dharmaraja were very happy to get a walkover. So, although they were the 7th place team coming into this quarterfinals, they were the first to book a spot in the semi-final.
Yeah, the luck of the draw, as they say, and they're really lucky to be able to make the semi-final. I think there are a few more deserving teams that you would think, teams like Wesley, maybe teams like even St. Anthony's, who possibly deserve on performance that semi-final slot. Dharmaraja has it, and if they can make it count, then good for them.
Let's take a look at the first quarterfinal. It was Wesley College taking on St. Joseph's. In the league clash of these two teams, Wesley got the better of St. Joseph, but Josephians 43-29, they ran away with it at the end of the game.
Yeah, and I was quite surprised at Wesley, who generally are a decent second half team, that they couldn't bring anything to the party in that second half. They weren't able to score too many points, just at one try in the second half, and Joe's really running away with it. So it's just a case of conditioning, I think, and Joseph's were just a little stronger physically in the latter half of that game. But I'm surprised that, I'm not surprised rather, that Wesley have conceded so many points, because they haven't been the best defensively this tournament so far, and they need to know that they can score tries, and they can score more tries than the opposition. And when that didn't happen, they were always going to look like they were going to struggle.
For the Josephians, Chatura Seneviratne, the man who controls how the game goes for the Josephians, came into the party. His territorial kicking was spot on, and also he scored that try in the first half, going through the defenses. He's a very strong ball carrier as well. So Chatura Seneviratne's form is going to be very crucial for Joes.
But yeah, I think it is going to be crucial for Joes, but he must be careful not to do a one-man team kind of thing, because sometimes he can leave the playbook, and his kicks are sometimes not read by his wingers who need to chase them down or things like that. He's got a great boot, but he needs to realize that he needs to bring his teammates into the game as well. He's got some really talented backs outside him as well, so if he can distribute the ball a little better, this Joe side is going to be much more dangerous.
Adding to what Shanaka mentioned, when it came to kicking, you're absolutely right, Shanaka, because Chatura Seneviratne's kicks cannot be complemented if he doesn't have that committed support backing those kicks up. Because we saw in this game, Avishka Lee rather, has a very good boot on him as well, kicking from the base, but he didn't have the same support as Chatura Seneviratne players backing those kicks up.
I think it's a little bit of a communication problem. The Lee twins are amazing players, but they're very quiet on the field. They don't say a lot, and especially for Avishka, from that scrum half position, he needs to be able to communicate a little bit better, make some eye contact with his blindside winger sometimes if he's just putting that bomb up, just to know that you're going to get the kick, start chasing even before I've kicked it. So that's the kind of communication I think they lack a little bit. They're very instinctive players, but they need, once again, just like Chatura, need to be able to bring other players into the game and get the best out of them. So that's what these two guys, I think, need to learn going forward if they are going to continue their rugby careers.
So at halftime, Wesley led 24 points to 21, although St. Joseph's, they basically ran away during the last 10 minutes. Gamunu Chetia touching down thrice. He could have touched down for another try, but wanted to be a little fancy and dropped the ball inside the in-goal. And the final score read 43 points to 29. And that was the first quarterfinal. Moving on to the second quarterfinal, St. Peter's yet again made sure that Trinity wouldn't have a W in front of them against them.
Well, I can almost sense the disappointment in your voice, Sudarshana, but unfortunately for Trinity, I think the emotional high of that league title challenge, and then of course the Bradby challenge in the couple of weeks after that, emotionally I think they were spent as a team. I think they were quite disappointed that those two results didn't go their way. So that's always going to show on the field, and I think they also chose a team that can compete for next year except for their captain, and as a result of that, St. Peter's probably took advantage of that, exploited it a little bit more, and playing with that kind of 7 structure that they're used to playing, St. Peter's just ran from everywhere, and they again scored a lot of points in that second half, whereas Trinity didn't manage to score any points in the second half. So that's another issue that I think they need to address going forward. If they are going to keep the same team, they need to address some very glaring issues that brought themselves up this season.
yet again, it was pretty much like a carbon copy of the first quarter final, where the losing team was leading at half time, but come second half, it was the winners who came into the party. St. Peter's just looked like they were more hungrier than Trinity when it came to this game.
And I think they also have the confidence that they had beaten the same team in the league match, and I think that would have played a little bit of a part in it as well, because St. Peter's, when they're playing well, are as good as any other team on the park. When they're playing badly, they can be worse than any of the other teams. But when they are on song, and I think you need guys like Sivaraj to come through, and Diat Fernando, he was the guy who was absent in the first half of the season. Now that he's got more of the ball and he's dancing through defenses, St. Peter's are a completely different side.
Mind you, it was a performance sans Steven Sivaraj because he wasn't available due to injury, but Theekshan Dasanayaka from the centre, he was a big man. He's one of those players we've had an eye on, but wasn't very consistent throughout the season, but he's really stepped up his mark.
And I think sometimes Sivaraj's absence might be helping Theekshan Dasanayaka because he might get the ball a little earlier. I think he's probably playing one position too far outside. I think he might be better off at number 12. He'll see more of the ball and be able to power through defenses a little bit more. But now that the passing is probably a little bit better because Sivaraj goes to his boot quite often. But now that Theekshan Dasanayaka is seeing more of the ball, perhaps he's becoming more dangerous.
Moving on to the third quarter final, Isipatana College versus St. Anthony's. Much was expected of this game, and this game lived up to its expectations, Shanaka.
It certainly delivered in terms of entertainment, didn't it? I got to feel for St. Anthony's because it was just a 1 point in it, 29-28, but Isipatana coming back in the last 11 or 12 minutes of that game, and this is why this Isipatana side is so difficult to beat. The second place team in the league, St. Anthony's had to be content going down to the plate competition, but I thought they did outstandingly well against Isipatana, and it's good to see two teams playing positive rugby. I thought they kind of Samuel Madhuanta was perhaps a little too complacent towards the end. I don't think they kind of realized how much Isipatana could come back into that game, but if they continued attacking and tried to bury this Isipatana offense in their onslaught that they had continued, maybe they just tired out a little bit too much at the end, but all credit to Patana for coming back.
Like you mentioned, Madhuanta had a game of two halves because first half he was all over the place, nothing went his way, but come second half he was really getting into the game, and even at the last minute, the last move, he tried out a drop goal which just dropped inches short of that crossbar, and I thought the difference was Theeksha Gurusingha, who was the starting scrum half, he was taken off just 10 to 5 minutes before the final whistle due to injury, and the new scrum half who came in, he was in a rush, and he wanted to send the ball out to that pocket a little too soon. Maybe if he could have held on for 2 to 3 more phases and given Madhuanta that 5-meter advantage, they could have actually gone over the line.
Well, that's the discipline, isn't it? And you've got to have a guy coming on, you've got to feel for him. He's not the first choice, he's coming in a really tough situation, and he knows that he's got to give a good pass to Madhuanta to make this, and that could be the difference between winning and losing. So, I mean, as a schoolboy, you can forgive those errors sometimes.
So what a thriller there was. At halftime, Antonians led 15 points to 12, and mind you, at one point, Antonians were leading 28 points to 12, and what a comeback Isipatana had in that game. Patana showed why they finished second best in the season, and why they are real contenders going into the final semi-finals. And talking about the semi-finals, 17th will be the first semi-final, Dharmaraj taking on St. Joseph's, and that's going to be an interesting clash. There is history between these two teams, so that will be interesting. And 18th, St. Peter's versus Isipatana. Who do you pick to be the finalist from these 4 teams, Shanaka?
Well, I think St. Joseph's will just have a little bit too much for Dharmaraj. I think quality-wise they've clicked finally at the latter half of the season, and they've got too many game-breaking players in that side. They've got Sanchita Silva, they've got Gamanu Chetia, Chaturu Seneviratna, Gihan Pereira. Absolutely, they have Vinul Fernando, all guys who can really break open a game. So I think they might have just a little bit too much of quality right through 1 to 15 for Dharmaraja. And again, like you said, there's a bit of history in this side, so I think St. Joseph's will want to assert that dominance, and I think they're going to go for it from the start. Also, their forward pack is quite big. And then against Peters and Isipatana, well, you know what? Peters are one of the few teams to have beaten both Trinity and Isipatana this season. They're going to come there with absolutely nothing to lose. And you know how close Diat Fernando came to winning the knockouts last year. I mean, he was agonizingly close. So I think he'll want to go one further. But Isipatana, if Chamud Fernando is fit enough, and if he can last that game, because he's obviously got a bit of a hamstring problem, he's not taking the kicks either. So if he can last that game, then things are going to look up for Isipatana, because I think once again they have a little too much quality right through, and I think they are a little too intelligent of a side to let a team defeat them twice in a season. So my picks would be Isipatana and St. Joseph's, but you know, stranger things have happened. I don't want to end up looking like Michael Vaughan.
Adding to something that you mentioned, yes, injuries are a big concern for Isipatana, because we saw Randy Silva did not start, and in the middle of that game against the Antonians, Captain Sumuduran Kodge left the field due to injury, and Devin Gunaratna leaving the field. So injuries are going to be a big concern for Isipatana. But some interesting rugby coming up. Papare.com will be bringing you live action as well, as the 15-a-side rugby slowly but surely taking a wrap. But we are moving on to the shorter format of the game, 7's. And we had the dialogue Club 7's over the weekend, the first leg of it. Shanaka, CRNFC losing out in the last minutes to the Sailors, clinching their first trophy of the season.
Well, if you're a CRNFC supporter, then this is nothing surprising, really. They've come close and no cigar so many times over the last decade or so. But congratulations to Navy, who are also fielding a very young side, Sudarshana, which is really interesting, I think, because even CR had a very young side. And the guy who scored the match-winning try, Buddhima Piyaratna, also is a guy who's been a youth player recently. So it's good to see that despite guys like Sali Ahandapangoda, who are the senior players, that you've got younger players who are stepping up to the mark. And I think that'll be very interesting for Sri Lanka rugby, regardless of who wins this tournament, to see so many 7's players being generated through the system. I think that's what's been most impressive about this weekend. But Navy, you know, they just put too much pressure on CI, who imploded once again.
21 points to 17 was the score in the cup final, and in the semi-final, Navy beat Police 33 points to 5, while Air Force went down to CR 12 points to 31. Remember, no Candy Sports Club in this tournament, so there was a little bit of glamour lost in the tournament, but these teams did play their hearts out. In the plate competition, Police SC got the better of Air Force, 22 points to 19, close affair there again.
Well, Police are again also trying to invest in a few young players. They've got a few good players on board this season. They've lost Reza Rafaidin, of course, but guys like Sansoni, guys like Joel Pereira are people who can take Police Sports Club forward. So Air Force also looking to, you know, hone their local talent, but I think just a little bit too far. 3 points in a 7's game is absolutely nothing. So I think the good thing is we've seen some tight competition in this entire dialogue in this 7's tournament.
And Shanaka spoke about the Police losing Reza Rafaidin, and also they've lost Rajesh Seneviratna, who had gone back to his old club, Air Force Sports Club, but was on the losing side in this affair. But let's move on to the ball segment. It was won by Havelock Sports Club, 26 points to 12. Some consolation, but Havies would be quite disappointed that they had to go down to the bowl segment.
Definitely. I mean, they should have been in the top 4 and contesting for a place in that final. And I'm surprised actually that they couldn't make it there. But maybe with Mithun Hapugoda coming back slowly and trying to get back into that side and playing the sort of role that he was earlier, they will be a different 7's team. But at the moment, I think they have a few players who are out of form. Sudarshan, and it's very soon after the 15th season as well. They had quite a few players who were with the Sri Lanka squad as well, guys who hadn't been able to train in the 7's format. So that's probably the reason, but look for Havelocks coming up much stronger as the season wears on.
Absolutely, because there was no Dulash Pereira due to injury, so those are key players that add a lot into that Havies outfit. And when it comes to the Shield, CRNFC B managed to get something for the London place, 36 points to 0. They got the better of Air Force Sports Club.
Yeah, and it's good to see as well, because CRNFC have a good cradle of rugby. They don't have the star players like Havelocks do or like Candy do, but they have a very good kind of birthing place for rugby players. And what CR have found a lot of the years in the past is that they've got so many good players. They've got, but they don't have great players because they keep losing them once they're the finished article. So they lose them to Havelocks, they lose them to Navy, they lose them to Candy, and that's something that if CR can get right, you see that these guys who played in the CRNFC B team could be stars of the future, and if they can hang on to those stars, then they're going to be a very different side to be contended with in the 15s format.
What's very interesting and exciting for CR is that even their A team was consisted of very young players whose average age was around 22 to 23 years. So that's exciting for CR. If they can hold on to these players and build on them, we will have very strong CR and FC team again playing and maybe going for the title challenge.
Yeah, because it's been pretty much a two-horse race recently. It's been Candy and Havelocks, and teams that were really good of yesteryear.
And maybe Navy.
Perhaps Navy as well. Then you've got teams like CH and CR who were traditionally very strong teams who have pretty much fallen by the wayside. You'd like to think that CI is better than just being a mid-table side. And the issue is, Sudarshan, you can't buy experience. And even to win a championship at this level, you need experience, and that's what Candy, Havelocks and Navy have in bucket loads. So despite having these really good players who are young players, they need to get some experience into that squad, guys who can just control a game a little bit. So if they can manage that, then look out for a 4-horse race next year.
Absolutely. So there you go. That's the wrap from the breakdown. We asked you a question about the dream team. Sorry, we haven't been able to come around and decide on one team. That's the reason that we are not coming out. Like we said last time, there have been a lot of arguments. There have been a lot of disagreements, especially when it comes to the center positions. We've had a lot of talk about it. So we promise you that we will bring it to you. The dream team of 2017 school season. But until then, this week we have a question for you, and I have a question for you as well, Shanaka. Who do you think will go on to clinch the Milo Knockouts trophy? We have 4 teams. I've asked your prediction about the 2 teams, but who do you think possess that quality to go all the way in the Milo Knockout Championship?
Well, it depends a lot on how serious the injuries to those Isipatana players are, Sudarshan. I think if Isipatana have a full side available to them, they'll win. But if not, I think St. Joseph's might just pull it off.
So there you go. As for me, I think the Green Machine is going to go all the way because they've had that trophy for 7 times. And
Isipatana... Is it 7 or is it 12?
7.
7.
7 times. And that team has... They give a big importance when it comes to the knockout trophy, so they will want to go all the way. They've missed out on the league, and so they have that quality and they have that never say die attitude, especially because being down 25 points to 12 against Antonians, the way they played, the way they poured their hearts out, I think the Isipatanians have that quality. But yes, St. Joseph's have a very good chance because finally they've started clicking. Let's see who will be correct come next week, but do comment your answers and your suggestions, your thoughts on how the breakdown should go ahead, and also who you think will win Milo Knockouts Trophy 2017. And until next time, I'm Sudarshan signing off alongside Shanaka and Sudarshana, sharing the passion.